I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, November 13th, brought to you in part by Arvest Banks. Arvest Agri-Finance team knows ranching because they've lived it. I had the opportunity to have lunch with many members of Arvest Agri-Finance team there in Pawhuska, Oklahoma this summer, and we went out to the Blue Stem Special video sale held by Coffeyville Stockyards there at the Crossbell Ranch, and I was looking forward to visiting with them more when we got out to the sale. When we got out to the sale, there were several people out there, a lot of ranchers and buyers and people in the cattle business there, and the agri-finance team from Arvest disappeared into the crowd. You're not going to find that with many other banks, guys. They just blended right in. They're just one of them, guys, and they want your cattle business. Of course, all loans are subject to credit approval, but get a hold of them, guys. Go to arvest.com/agriculture. Don't rock the boat. So far this week, we haven't seen any stinging social posts there that has thrown this cattle market into a bind there. It's been fairly friendly, up and down. Feeder's been up, fat's mostly down, and the fed cattle are dealing with their own issues, but feeder cattle kind of holding their own and gaining back some of those mounting losses that we've had over the last couple of weeks there, guys. But you know, now that we're getting the government back going again, while it was shut down, we were talking all about grocery inflation, and that's something that's been a big issue here for the last several years, and it became more so because during the government shutdown, the food stamps and things like that were backed off there, and people worried about how they're going to get enough money to eat. But beef has always been one of the most expensive things on your grocery list, and that's why people settle wagers with it. It's the best thing that there is to eat. You know, I think if you took a poll of people's last meal there that were on death row, steak would be included in that many times. More so than any other food there is, guys. It's supposed to be a little bit more expensive. It costs a lot to raise this product, and it is superior to all other products. So we have to take that into account, guys. But we're still waiting on the effects of the government investigation on the Big Four. So we'll see what happens when that comes in. You know, it would have been a better time to do it back during COVID. And President Biden had said he was going to do some investigating of the Big Four packers a couple times back then. Nothing ever happened. But right now could be one of the worst times in history to do a government investigation as far as where we stand in the cattle business. We've been making good money in the cattle business here for at least the last couple of years, and probably the last 3 or 4 years. At least the last couple of years, your packers have not been making a lot of money. So from our perspective, this is not a great time to address that issue if they're wanting to use it in comparison. It would have been a lot better to do it, like I said, back during COVID, but many times. But we were during the cycle where cattle are supposed to be high, and they were higher, and they were higher than probably they were expected to be. So it's not really a good time to be looking into that, even though there's a lot of things to see in there. I mean, your packers have pled guilty many times to cases that included price fixing and things like that, manipulation of the market, collusion. They're guilty of that stuff. You know, go in there and do an investigation, that's fine, but over history, this is probably not the best time as far as where we're looking at it from the cattle business. But the daily livestock report put out by the CME group is one of the things that I look at daily, and it has been really good here lately. And we're still thinking about Mexico, and we haven't heard anything this week about the Mexico border opening or not opening, or Mexico trying to use their influence and using the cattle feeders, Texas Cattle Feeders Association to try to help push the Secretary of Agriculture into opening that. It's been pretty quiet here. You know, they said they're not ready to open it last week, and they haven't done any more about it, so it's been kind of nice that they haven't talked about that. But on the daily livestock report, they had in that most recent report that cattle imports over the last 20 years, this is cattle, not beef, but live cattle imports from Canada and Mexico, which is basically the only place we get cattle imported into the United States. But over the last 20 years, they have averaged just under 1.2 million head per year. It sounds like a lot, but 1.2 million head a year, you know, if you compare that to against the commercial cattle slaughter per year there, that's about 6%. So you know, it's not that big a deal really. You know, and then we're thinking, oh my God, we're going to tank this market because cattle are coming in from Mexico or whatever. We can take the cattle from Mexico. What we can't take is the uncertainty. They're coming in, they're not coming in, they're going to open it, they're not going to open it. You know, stop doing that stuff. I want to tell you about a sale that's coming up here pretty quick that you are going to want to pay attention to. It's from Callaway Livestock Center, the Callaway Fall Elite Video Sale. And that is going to be on Saturday, November the 22nd at 7 o'clock p.m. They're going to have a customer appreciation meal there and from 6 to 7 and a social hour there. And then they're going to have a video auction there of replacement stock. They're going to have 5 fancy Angus bulls there. And then they're going to have a very impressive offering of bred heifers, young bred cows, and cow-calf pairs from all over Missouri, Iowa, and Kansas there, from some of the best consigners that you can imagine out there. Real prestigious sale. You guys need to get ready for that. Check it out. Get ready to bid and buy there on DVAuction.com. Let's talk about your board on Wednesday. December live cattle futures down 192 at 225.27. February was down 142 at 224.97. Your back months on live cattle down 132 to down 172. It's down, but it's not horrible. November feeder cattle were up 135 at 339.02. Your other months were down some. January feeder cattle down 167 at 327.47. And your back months on feeder cattle contracts from down 230 to down as much as 352. Look at your grains. December corn was up 3 1/4 cents a bushel at 435 1/4. January beans up 6 1/2 at 1133 3/4. Hard red winter wheat for December up 1 3/4 cents at 525 1/2. But your futures, as far as cattle futures, the open interest is extremely low. I mean, extremely low historically. And that's why it's such a shallow pool. It doesn't take hardly anything to make that thing race one way or the other. And we've been kind of lucky here the last couple of days that it hasn't ran one way or the other too bad. Your fat cattle trade, we still haven't seen a whole lot of trade, and the market has not been set yet. But we've seen a little bit of trade. And on Wednesday, Iowa sold another 700 head, only 2,000 for the week so far. And live sales in Iowa fed steers and heifers from 224 to 225, and that would be a couple dollars lower than what they sold on Tuesday. But like I said, the market has not been set as of yet. Nebraska sold 600 head, live price there at 225, and dress price at 357. Kansas sold 1 load of cattle, and it was a short load there on Wednesday at 228 live. And that's kind of way Texas traded a few earlier in the week there. But Texas didn't have any confirmed sales of fed cattle negotiated on a direct basis there on Wednesday. We did have a couple of fat cattle auctions. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota had 900 head for their slaughter cattle auction there. The fed steers and heifers sold steady to $2 lower. Conventional fed cattle selling from $222 to $224.75. Program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free, selling from $222 to $226. Glacial Lakes Livestock in Watertown, South Dakota had 800 head for their slaughter cattle sale. Market was mostly steady with last week. Conventional fed cattle selling from $220 to $224. Program cattle from $224 to $226. They had fed Holstein steers from $175 to $187. And big fat fed cows from $175 to $187. box beef cutout values were lower and sharply lower on the choice. So if they wanted to get beef lower there, I tell you what, the rib kind of collapsed there. But choice cuts down $4.77 on Wednesday afternoon at $374.45. Select cuts down 14 cents at $359.94. And I have to remind you, this is just on the spot market. This is for immediate delivery, just wholesale buyers that are completely hand to mouth. The bulk of your cutouts are sold way out front. They're sold on a formula type deal, like the way most of your fed cattle are actually sold, and we don't see the market on there. It's not real balanced there as what we see, what happens. We don't see what happens, most of it. We just see what's happening right on the surface there for immediate delivery. Your slaughter so far for the week, estimated cattle slaughter up through Wednesday was at 351,000. That's 7,000 more than last week at this point. It's 9,000 less than the same point in the week a year ago. Let's talk about what else is going on. Valley Grande Ranch Feeders, guys. Mark Archibald, one of the three brothers there that run that outfit, he is active in beef marketing issues all over the world. These guys are cutting edge. They know what's going on. They know all the latest tricks to try to help straighten these calves up. They know the best products to use. They know the tricks to keep them eating and get going. They want your balling calves to wean and to straighten up there and get them going. And they want them to fill the available pen space they have at their facility right on their ranch in northern South Dakota. Call them up if you got some weaned calves or unweaned balling calves or weaned calves or even thin cows you want to put some weight on. They can put the weight on them for you there, guys. For more information, go to archbro.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Wednesday after your sales had all concluded there, sitting at 341.45. That was up 332. It's mostly because we got past that really down point early last week there. So now we're working on just the last 7 days. It's a 7-day moving average there. So your markets were improved there, up 332. Your steer trackers sitting at 351.57. So the last 25 lots of 5 head or more that go in the index were way over your average there. And your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 340.67. Got a lot of big sales here coming up on Thursday. Got some calf specials still going on in the northern plains. If you guys want to get those calves because you're going to need something to graze on forage or to feed here through the winter, you better get in here while these big calf runs are available, guys. They got a big run at Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Dickinson, North Dakota. About 4,800 head consigned there. You can view and bid those on DVAuction.com. Ogallala Livestock Auction in Ogallala, Nebraska. It's got 3,700 head here on Thursday. View and bid them on DVAuction.com. Let's talk about your big sales that happened on Wednesday. Of course, I was in Springfield, Missouri on Wednesday at the Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. They had about 3,000 head there. Good crowd on hand. I tell you what, I haven't sold a sale that had so many different buyers in one sale for quite a while. I mean, I don't know how many different buyers that they had. A lot of small producers there. Like I said, a big crowd on hand, free lunch and everything. And it is one place that's unique in that it's always been known as the Holstein steer capital of the world here in the lower Midwest. I realize they have a lot of Holstein steers in the upper Midwest, but as far as in the lower Midwest, down in the plains areas, nobody gets Holstein steers like Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. And they had a lot of them there on Wednesday, and I was auctioneering. I was able to sell several loads of Holstein steers there. And that's something that may not always be there, because Holstein steers are a dying breed. They've got sexed semen. That cuts down on the Holstein bull calves that are born. And then now you're getting all these beef on dairies, and they're crossbreeding these dairy cows. So you don't see as many straight Holstein steers anymore. as most guys are crossbreeding them, and then they're retaining the ownership on those beef on dairy calves. But they had a good market there for Holstein steers. Sold 52 head of 951 pound Holstein steers at $243. Big sales on Wednesday. OKC West El Reno Livestock Market in El Reno, Oklahoma. They had a big sale, 7,800 head for their 2-day sale with calves on Tuesday. Big feeders on Wednesday. The feeder steers over 850 pounds sold steady. Those under 850 pounds were $10 to $14 higher. Of course, the market fell big there, if you remember last week on Wednesday there. But your feeder heifers were $10 to $15 higher. Steer calves run evenly steady, and heifer calves $3 to $7 higher, with lightweights under 500 pounds as much as $10 to $15 higher. So really good sale there in El Reno, Oklahoma. The most impressive quote I saw in El Reno was 63 steers weighed 782 at $359. How about Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska, up there in the sand hills of Nebraska? Best cattle in the world come out of that part of the country, guys. They had a big calf special there, and Bassett was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard livestock handling equipment. Stick out sale of the day. You look at this automated marker report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights. 265 head of the 4-weight steers average 449 at 499.58 on the weighted average. 1,093 head of 5-weight steer calves average 549 at 457.29. There were 1,027 head of the 6-weight steers average 646 at 414.34. These are big quotes, guys. 458 head of the 7-weight steers average 744 at 386.82. Look at your heifers, and heifers only made up 22% of the feeder cattle, guys. They're keeping those fancy heifers back for replacements. They had 302 head of the 4-weight heifer calves, average 461 with a weighted average price of 449.38. 284 head of the 5-weight heifer calves, average 552 at 419.33. Going to give you several impressive individual quotes from all around the country. How about Sydney Livestock in Sydney, Montana? DVAuction broadcaster there. They sold 52 Pee-wee steers, weighed 428 at 565. Let's go out east. How about North Arkansas Livestock in beautiful downtown Green Forest, Arkansas? They sold 62 steers, yearlings, weighed 828 at 347.50. How about further east, guys? Let's go to Hardin County Stockyards in Savannah, Tennessee. Sold 56 feeder steers there, weighed 867 at 335. That's a pretty good quote that far from your feeding areas, guys. How about Buffalo Livestock Marketing in Buffalo, Wyoming? DVAuction broadcaster there sold 50 head steer calves, weighed 507 at 486. Hub City Livestock in Aberdeen, South Dakota. DVAuction broadcaster sold 60 head, 989 pound steers, nearly 1,000 pounds at 357 and a quarter. But of course, your most impressive quote, another DVAuction barn there, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day indeed come out of Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. It was 100 head of steers, weighed 710 at 413.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.